let's talk about the opportunity that is in being triggered or overly emotional. Hi, I'm Angel. Thanks for stopping by. I know that's everybody's favorite topic, right? Emotions. I know it's not everybody's favorite topic, and yet I am just beginning to appreciate what a great resource, what a great tool my emotions are, and especially those emotions that seem disproportionate to the situation, which is my clue that I've been triggered. Basically, like there's something in my subconscious that is now being automatically triggered and running the program instead of me being fully present in the moment, in the now, right? I hope that's making sense. Let me know in the comments if it is or isn't, and I will take another run at it if it isn't. And that's another point that I want to make, really, or that is related to another point that I want to make, which is that it doesn't have to be a big deal to make a correction. To be off course, to be out of alignment, isn't a big deal. It happens all the time. I like the analogy of tuning my guitar. The strings go out of tune. That's just something that happens regularly, and it's not a big deal. You just tune it up. And I think similarly with our relationships, with ourselves, with others, if we just learn to tune it up more quickly, then we're gonna have a better sounding concert, right? That analogy. I think that analogy still holds. My point is just that none of us are perfect, but if we give ourselves and each other a little space, a little benefit of the doubt this is another thing I want to say, is that when we can start to learn to not get tangled up in other people's triggers, and I'm still learning this myself, I haven't mastered it, but I've made a lot of improvement, and in fact many people I'm in relationships with for decades now have remarked lately that they've noticed that improvement. So I know I'm not just making that up, and that comes from not automatically allowing myself to get snagged or to get tangled up in other people's emotional reaction. But again, to give them that space and to recognize that if somebody's reacting in a very emotional way, that they're likely to be basically they're not fully present. It doesn't mean they're not trying to be present, and it doesn't mean they're not, doing the best they can to be present. But really, when we're on that, again, when the subconscious is triggered to play out a pre-programmed scenario, basically a chemical cascade is what it is, based on a past event that has created an emotional chemical cascade, which creates an emotional sensation in our body. And once that is triggered, in fact, the less space we put around it, the less conscious we become, and we can become completely consumed by the emotion of that past event, even though it's not actually happening right now, and we may blow completely out of proportion something that is happening, or the current event. And in fact, in my experience, what I've found in doing this work and in healing myself, is that a lot of those reactions, those subconscious programs, are put in a lot of times when we're very young, infancy even. And so a lot of times, to me, once I realized that, it made a lot of sense as to why a lot of times my reactions were so, infantile. They didn't make sense, really. They were just like an infant would be, this emotional reaction that had really not very good words, was very juvenile or very infantile in my responses before I started becoming conscious. And actually, this just happened to me yesterday, and I'm lucky enough that I have a good friend, partner, who brought it up to me and helped me see it. But I still tend to slip into that subconscious when there's a high level of emotion, and sometimes carelessly say something that is more rooted in that subconscious, infantile, childlike, insecure self, and not actually rooted in the present moment. And I know I'm not alone. I'm talking about this because I'm hoping maybe as I talk about it, it helps somebody out there, maybe you, start to build a little space around your own triggers, your own subconscious programming. Ultimately, one of my missions in this life is to help transform my own subconscious programming, pre-programming, whatever you want to call it. My own limiting beliefs, which are usually set before we get to the point where then they're holding us back. So maybe there's a belief that makes a lot of sense when you're 3 years old, like if I cry, my mom will give me her attention, for example, or something like that. But if we're still using that, so there's different things are appropriate at different age levels, right? And I think sometimes we get stuck in those patterns from our infancy, from our childhood, from our teen years, and even from just the other day. If we're not aware of it, we can pick up an emotional reaction and basically seed a subconscious belief that then becomes a pattern of behavior that can be a really destructive, limiting force in our lives. So I hope that's making sense. Let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts about all that. This is a deep subject. It's one that I care deeply about, and I've done a lot of personal work on, but as I mentioned, I have not mastered. So I'm aware that my words are still a little unclear at times as I try to navigate, as I try to present my learning to you so that you may learn from it also, because I do believe that's makes the world a better place when we all do that. So that's my intention here. Let me know what you think. If you want to give me a thumbs up, I sure would appreciate it. If you want to connect with me in other ways, I'm on most of the other social media platforms, and you can also find links in the description to my books, my music, my artwork. Lots of ways you can support me if you're into that sort of thing. I sure would be grateful. As always, I wish you lightheartedness, love, laughter, peaceful conflict resolution. Don't forget to play every day.